Hey there, welcome back to the Application Insider channel. I'm very excited today that I've got a new student interview for you. There's been a little bit of space in the time between the last student interview and this one, but I think that's just because this one is a real treat that we had to make sure you were ready and waiting for. So today I am speaking with Ruby Sultan. She is currently in her ISPP program, and at the time of our chat, she just has a few weeks to go before she is done with her internship and getting ready for her next step. So as I mentioned, she's in an ISPP program. So she is going to be talking about how she found an ISPP program, how she even learned what they were, and how she got the opportunity to apply, and what it took to make her application stand out, including finding preceptors that worked for her in this rotation, or excuse me, in this program, the rotations she has had and what she has gained from every single one of them. And we even together in this episode and in this conversation, we came up with a really cool tagline that you can use for your own application experience. And, you know, it also just applies to so many elements in life. So listen to hear what our tagline for life is and how it can apply to whatever you are working on. And you can learn more about Ruby's experience. So let's go to our conversation. All right, welcome everybody to the Application Insider podcast and YouTube channel. I am so excited to have another student interview for you today. I am speaking with Ruby Sultan, and I'm so glad that she was able to join me. Welcome, Ruby.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat and learn a lot from you too.
Awesome. All right, well, to start things off, why don't you just tell everyone where you are from? Just share a little introduction about yourself, where you're from, and where you are in your dietetics education journey.
So I'm from Fresno, California. I graduated my dietetic program at Fresno State in my undergrad, and I started my Long Beach ISPP program dietetic internship pretty much from Fresno because it was a distance program, but you can complete it anywhere in California. And I'm currently on my last step of my rotations, which is my MNT2, finding a hospital or a long-term care unit where they have patients with tube feeding and TPN.
Okay, awesome. And before we got into the actual interview, Ruby was saying that she is just 30 days out from finishing her internship. So she's really at that light at the end of the tunnel, seeing all of it coming to pass, getting into your career. That's awesome. Congratulations.
I'm so excited. It's literally 30 days and you're like, I need to grind it out. I'm going to hurry, but I'm going to focus, get everything right, study.
Yeah, I know. You kind of like, you hit a new phase, a different wave of energy maybe comes up as you start thinking, all right, we got to finish this up and get ready for the next step. That's great.
Yeah. This is like what we've been waiting for. After graduating or getting into your DPD program, you're like, yes, I'm almost there. Then when you're done with that, you're like, that went by pretty fast, you know? And mine finished during COVID. So mine, like the last 2.5 months, we were pretty much online, work from home, and that was a different experience. And then all through summer, looking for my rotations, which that was another thing. We'll talk about it later, I'm sure.
We'll get to that for sure. That's a big part of the type of program that you applied to. All right, well, you kind of just talked a little bit about my next question as I look at my little list here. So where you are in your education pathway, you're in your ISPP program. How did you choose? We're going to back it up a little bit. And I hate that this sounds like a personal statement question, but people like to know, how did you choose dietetics as your career that you want to go into?
Well, for me, I would say definitely my first nutrition class. I love doing a 3-day food journal. I love tracking my calories. I was like, this is pretty cool, you know? And before that, I was on the track team. So before taking my nutrition class, I was on the track team at Fresno State. And we met with a registered dietitian, and she promoted giving us like chocolate milk after lifting sessions and almonds. And I was like, oh, wow, like, what does that do? What's the benefit? You know, I only knew like food was good for you. Food is medicine growing up. And then now meeting a dietitian, I'm like, what is a dietitian? Because I never knew like that was a job. So I was like, let's learn more about this.
Yeah.
So I switched from a pre-dental student. I was a bio major for 3 years, and I had to take all my chem, my bio, microbio. And then when I like started getting into the one nutrition class for like GE, I was like, I love this. So I remember switching, and that was a big step for me.
Yeah, well, especially 3 years in, I mean, you've covered a lot of ground by that time. And
Mhm.
it can be a really big switch to change majors, especially that means going back and maybe
Start,
increasing the time it will take to finish and get that degree or repeat classes or whatever. So,
yeah, pretty much. I started from scratch when I changed my major to become a nutrition major, but it's even crazier because I had toured all the dental schools. I was getting ready to almost apply for dental school, but I was like, something feels right. Like, I love nutrition and everything that I learned. Like, you can even see, I used to take food pictures before it was a thing, you know? Like, I have pictures of all my salads, but they've changed over time. They used to have goldfish as toppings. And now I love teaching people like adding sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds and like the benefits of those.
mhm. Awesome. So you've really gone through a lot of transitions,
Yeah.
and it sounds like though this is really still feeling like a good fit and you're moving forward. So that's great. You landed in the right spot, it sounds like.
Right. And just all the different categories of nutrition that you never thought a dietitian would work in,
Mhm.
especially after being in all my rotations pretty much. Even through the different rotations, there's still so many ventures that a dietitian can work as.
Yeah.
It's pretty flexible, and I'm a big fan of flexible
Yeah.
scheduling.
Yes. Well, then you're in the right place because dietetics has so much to offer. Like you said, even within all of the like general categories we like to break up the profession into, there are so many like smaller pathways within each of those. So there really can be something for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you are in an ISPP program, but we're going to go back and talk a little bit about your whole application experience. How did you choose what number and what type of programs to apply to? Or did you just have kind of ISPP programs on your mind?
No, so I didn't know about what ISPE programs were. I did meet the Pepperdine ISPE program at the tabling event during Fancy.
Mhm.
That was always a fun day. It's always like on the third day after you made some friends at the conference, maybe met some dietitians, you go to the tabling event and you have all the schools and programs. Well, there was Pepperdine ISPE program, and it said second chance application only. And I was like, oh, what does that even mean? I didn't know that DICAS had a second application round. So it was crazy because I met the ISPE program last Fancy, 2 Fancies ago, because I like to go almost every year. I've been
Mhm.
going for 3 years. And when I applied for 3 schools. I applied in Oregon, but Oregon had like 6 application locations within the one application. So it was like a good deal. And then I applied to Seattle, and I'm from California. So I just wanted some change, I felt like.
Mhm.
But it's really like, I feel like I was so blessed that I ended up being in California, because I'm like, I love being in California. I love the beach and the sun, being all that. But thinking that I was going to get away and go to maybe Oregon or Seattle. And I also applied in another location in Washington.
Mhm.
And I ended up not getting in on my first round, but figuring out that after that second round, there's like a period in between first round and second round where you start getting emails from all the other internship directors saying, hey, we have spots to fill. Are you ready? Send us this, this, and this. And you'd send in supplementary information.
Mhm.
So I think I got an email about from Long Beach and saying that they are starting a program, or that they've had this program. And I was like, oh, I should apply. It's in California and it fits like the requirements that I liked, because the reason why I applied to the Washington ones is that they had a separate rotation for farming. And I thought that would be fun and different, to tend to a farm for 8 weeks and like learn about your vegetables that way. But this one was in California, and they had your own rotation, your elective rotation, as well as your clinical, your community, like all the basic ones. But that's the one that I liked, like, oh, I can do my own, which I ended up choosing doing private practice. And I did 2 versions of the private practice. I did like a community private practice outpatient, and then I did another one where it's specific for gut issues. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like, I mean, even though the official match didn't work out for you, you were like ready, primed, in the right place, in the right time to receive those emails from programs that could take applications right away for that, next level of
My goal was get in. Like my goal, I just graduated or I'm about to graduate. My goal is to get in. Let's do it,
Mhm.
And I would say like it is very competitive. You see the percentage on how many people can get in. And there's probably more than 50 people applying to the one school and there's only 12 spots.
Mhm.
That's pretty intense, and to be able to still have a second chance, you're like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to make it in. And what I would tell my friends that also applied second round, I'm like, it's your mindset. You can't be sad. You still have another chance. You should be happy too. Like there's other opportunities that are probably better for you, even though you're like, I'm set on this one.
Yeah.
Then after I did my supplemental essays and uploaded more documents for the other programs, I ended up getting an interview and I was so happy. It was a Zoom interview because of COVID.
Mhm.
And I set up my couch, I set up my lighting, I got my outfit ready, and the questions were tough. It was like a panel of questions
Yeah.
with like current students, the assistant director, and the director. And they asked us MNT questions. They asked us normal questions like professional questions. What would you do scenarios?
Mhm.
And I was just like, think about the question, don't rush it, and process it and say what you feel. You're in the moment, you're there pretty much.
Yeah, I agree with you that that mindset portion is really important, and that's what can set you up to be ready if the match doesn't work out, and to be ready to put together, those additional materials and go into an opportunity for an interview with kind of that calmer sense of like, I'm just here to represent myself, be who I am, answer their questions, and provide that information. And it really is mindset that can help get over what could potentially instead be like a lot of nerves or a lot of anxiety. Or I can see some students might feel like there's more pressure going into, after the match. That's like, well, no, I really can't miss the opportunity. But it sounds like you were able to just put kind of all that aside and be like, I'm just going for it. This is what I want. This is what I'm worthy of and have been working for. And that helped you nail it.
Yeah. And just like everyone is so scared during diecast, which I get, and I definitely had fears going into the application. That process was like double checking, making your own list, triple checking. I watched so many YouTube videos. I'm so glad that you have this podcast. I didn't have many podcasts when I was applying, I feel. And just anything I found on Spotify, I was like, oh, let's listen to it. This could help me. But I was like, I listened, I used my resources, and I even use like Eat Right. What is it called? The program where you match with your, like a mentor, but who's already a dietitian. I use that.
Good.
And so I spoke with one person on the West Coast and one person on the East Coast, and they both have different things to offer you, and use that. It's right there on Eat Right. So it was helpful.
Yes. Use your resources and search for resources. Some of them are not as obvious, but they are often out there. So
yeah,
step up your Google skills if you're not coming across them.
Yeah, ask people, ask your clubs on campus or your director. They're there to help you. We all want more dietitians in this field, and we're growing every year. And I love when people are applying. If you need a mentee or a mentor, I will be there for you, because since I reached out to them, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to help them, especially that I applied within the past 5 years. Rather than the people that were my mentors. It's been like 20 years for them. So I'm always there to help someone. And even on a recent like all access dietetics event that I went to, I posted, I'm like, if anyone needs help, here's my Insta, here you go, I'll help you.
That's awesome. Yes, those resources are so needed. So there you have it, everybody. Ruby will be your mentor. You might get a flood of requests.
I'm ready. We'll take it 10 out of 10.
I love it. All right. So thinking back on your application from the get-go, was there any certain section or sections that you just maybe had a little more apprehension about? And how did you approach them if you did?
Oh, so I would say I wasn't your typical applicant. Since I had so many classes that I entered, you have to enter all the classes that you've done. So I even entered all my bio classes, all the other major classes that I was in. And I also had a lot of background and my experience. I did so many community events and, reaching out to your program leaders and making sure all those emails are up to date. And then in my GPA, it wasn't up to pretty much the application needs. But because of my essay, I feel like having a strong essay really helped. And again, being positive with everything that I wrote was really important to me, because even though it was so hard and like, yeah, you have to set that time aside. You're like, I'm really going to do this. There's a deadline you have to submit by. I think just writing it down. For me, it's writing it down, having a checklist, or just reminding yourself around your house, like what you're doing next for the application, or choosing a way, like how you're going to stand out, in your application. So it's like, who are you and how did you make a change throughout your life using or becoming a dietitian,
Yeah, I mean, the application is all about you. It's meant to be a representation of you. So that's a good way to approach it. Why am I even here? Why is this application so important to me? What's the value of it? And keeping that in mind.
So much time into it that you're not going to just randomly just put something in, you're going to take the time to do it and pay attention, and also be mindful of what you're writing, because they're going to read it in a different perspective. So how is it going to be read? How's your application going to be approached, pretty much?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all really good perspectives to keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right. So you kind of answered my next question. Just talking about how you approach, and that's great. I mean, it just all flows together. Was how you approach your application. It sounds like you really set time aside and kind of put things on a to-do list or something like that to keep yourself on track. Are there any other techniques that you use or something that just really worked out well for you?
I definitely had a buddy that we were both doing our application with. And during my cohort, my DPD cohort, not everyone was applying. We had a class about 25 people. Only maybe 10 of us applied for the spring match of 2020. So yes, we were applying, but not everyone was applying to the same program. And we actually had a senior seminar class. And in that class, we talked about, we're all here together. We're not here to be against each other. We're here to help each other out. Do you have a question? Did you understand how to fill out the section? Because when you first look at diecast, you're like, wait, what? Is there this? Or later when you're on it and you're actually been on it for 20 hours, you're like, oh, there's actually another tab right here I need to fill out. I use the diecast hotline almost every time I got on. I was like, is this section done if I did this, and that? Or I'd be like, how do I upload, uploading your personal statements per school and making sure that you title them how you want to be uploaded for the school, because they're going to see that. Or also having your references being sent in and making sure that your references specifically talked about the one school that you're applying to, just make it more personalized.
Yeah, I know there are many elements to keep track of.
Right.
And sounds like you kept DICAS on their toes, made sure they knew what information students needed. You gave them the test.
Yeah, exactly. Ask for help pretty much on your application and read more resources.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So if you had to go back through the application experience again, I don't know anyone who actually wants to, but if you had to, would you do anything differently, or is there advice that you would give yourself?
I would say I'm happy the way that things turned out now. But if I did, I mean, my experience has really helped me in becoming who I am as a dietitian and what I want to learn more about too, because I've seen so much, especially in Fresno. I've helped the community in outreach and teaching them nutrition education, even parents of caretakers or caretakers of children in elementary schools, teaching them just the basics on you can eat healthy and on a budget, right? So when I was applying, I was kind of nervous about my GPA because it was lower, but I was also I can still get in. I have a lot to offer, and I know that I want to be a dietitian, and just the confidence in yourself to apply is important, because they are looking at your GPA, they are looking at your experience, right? They want a well-rounded student, but how are you going to tie all those in together to show them that you're ready to be an intern, right? Like, that's why in your essay, it's important to experience or highlight the how, or like not just what you did, because that's already listed on your resume. We want to say like, how did you make a change, or how did you feel when you were doing this and this, right? So I feel like the GPA was me trying the best that I can at the time back then, because obviously we change. We're not the same person every day. We're trying to be better, but we can't really go back in time, but we can always do better moving forward. And moving forward, we always want to be like prepared and professional. I feel like I should think of a 3 Ps. Every time I hear a podcast or a motivational story, they always have an acronym that they follow, professional, prepared, and I don't know. What can you think of?
Let's see. Professional, prepared.
Oh God.
Personal comes to mind, but that's just personal statement. But I mean,
personal
your personality and who you
yeah,
actually
personality for sure. Oh yeah. Actually pretty funny. I was trying to make my personal statement funny, because I'm like, I'm funny. I want them to know like I'm funny, like I'm serious and I can get a lot done, but I'm also funny, like, So I was trying to show personality in my statement for sure.
Perfect. Well, if that works. So what was it? Prepared, professional, and personality?
Yes, I love that.
I feel like that's I feel like we
Those
just
are good.
a really good tagline.
Okay, I'm writing that down. We'll see that soon on my story.
I think it definitely applies to so many phases in life. Your application, your internship, going into your career, all of those elements are important moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And they're always changing,
Mm-hmm.
Like your style, or like how you come about a conversation, or like approaching anything. Like, it's again with the mindset, but as you're growing and living through experiences, you're learning how to adapt to where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. It's all just growth and moving forward. Like, even if it's a tiny step in one direction, just moving forward and making sure you're heading toward what you want and what is important to you.
Yeah. And tiny steps is very important, especially for me, because I can't just like move like, I'm always just like, okay, we're going to take it one day at a time.
Uh-huh.
What are the top 3 things I need to do? Let's handle that moving forward,
It's the slow and steady pace. It's the way to get something done, make the progress, but not become so overwhelmed or burnt out or just stressed by the project at hand.
Yeah, because I feel like if you stress about it, then we might delay it, which I'm sure we've all done that before. But if you can just pick out one piece, or maybe look at the big picture and say, where can I start? What can I do next to move forward? Which is something like I have it on my desk. Like, what's the most important to accomplish today?
Perfect.
Because now when your desk is clean and you want to sit at it, you read it, you're like, oh, let's get to work,
What's happening now? No, those are all really good approaches. Okay, well, since you are in your internship, almost done with your internship, in fact, I'd love to hear a little bit about that and what you've done so far. So when you became an intern and you got started in your program, what is something that surprised you the most?
Oh, so because I'm in an ISPP program, I have to find my own rotations pretty much. And before you apply, one of the pre-application process was to submit like a rough draft of where you're going to go. So for me, I was like, you know what? This is really good that I got into this. This allows me to have flexibility. I get to choose my own rotations on what I want to learn more about, or where I want to maybe be a dietitian working, So like compared to other ones where it's like, it's already made for you. Like, these are their set rotations, and the cohort before you did the same thing, So then you would have those experiences. Whereas mine, I was like, okay, going into it, I had to do that first. Then at orientation, it was like a week long and we learned so much, and I took so many notes, and they were also helpful because even during your rotations, you're like, wait, what did we talk about? And you flip back to that. So definitely, like, even when you maybe don't remember like what happened in person, like when you think back about it, but when you look at your notes, it can take you back to the time that you were in your orientation and you're like, oh, that's right, they said that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I feel like that pretty much remembering what you need to do, and that there's so much to remember throughout your whole orientation, that it's really important to read your manual throughout or before every rotation that you begin. I think that's what's surprising.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to just knowing what resources are available for this new education experience. And it could be a manual that the program provides. It could be the notes that you took. It could be, calling up your director or whoever your kind of like go-to person is there, and remembering that they're there to be part of this experience and help you through it. All of those things.
Right. Yes. And my director is so motivational, and he's always like, what do you need? We're here. What do you need? You can email them, you can text them. It's very more, this is when you feel like, wow, I just graduated college and I'm pretty much an adult. I'm on my own here. So you have everything that you need to do in the manual. You got to get it done. And if you need to ask questions for help, do it. But we're here to help you follow through and become the dietitian. That's their goal, to help you become the dietitian, but this is all on you.
It's good that you've got that support to, like you said, take ownership of the task. It's on you to get it done, but there are people there who can help you do that. And that's like literally why they are there, and why they want to be there, is to help you get to your goal.
Right. And I don't think that it's scary, because you can prepare a little bit before each rotation that you begin. I've watched so many videos that are like, internships are hard and scary, but not unless you're prepared, professional, and show your personality.
There you go. It's perfect. There it is. So much less scary.
Right? Yeah. So at each rotation, like, you can ask them before you start, hey, what do I need to do before I begin? Is there something I should review? Or maybe they have an assignment for you before you start, or maybe on day one, they already have things prepared. They've had, the people that you're precepting with have had previous interns. So they either created something on their own, they either have something from other programs that they'd like to share with you. It's all really good, and definitely ask questions, and also research anything on your own that you probably don't know about. And then if you need more, you can ask them again.
Yeah, it's all there. Okay, just because I know people are going to be wondering if they have to do this task for their application experience. Can we talk about what it took to find preceptors? Now, since you did the ISPP program after the match actually happened, it wasn't something you did initially with your application, right? It's something you did after you got into this program. So tell us what that was all like.
Oh, wait, no, so before I applied, I had to submit that. Like, saying that I'm interested in your program, I had to submit like a rough draft of where I'm going to go for every rotation.
Okay, so
you're like, oh no, I have 7 days. I need to find people. Boom. Do you know what I did? I messaged RDs on LinkedIn. I posted on LinkedIn. I found dietitians on Instagram and I messaged them. I pretty much reached out locally first. Since it was COVID, I was like, what's going to happen? I was going to move to Long Beach, Los Angeles area in August, but I didn't have a rotation out there. Plus, I didn't know about housing, what I was going to do. So I was like, let's just start home base first. And I had contacts. So connections while you're an undergrad with dietitians is key, because when you're applying for DICAS, you don't know. We don't know. We're just like, we're applying because we want to become a dietitian, right? But knowing dietitians all over California or wherever you are in your area is super important, because those are the first people I reached out to. Hi, it's Ruby. I finally am applying for my internship process. You know, it's been a long time coming, but now I'm ready for you. Do you have an available space for me to intern? And you can call them, you can email them, but just making that connection again, like just staying in contact throughout the years until you're applying for your internships, I think is very important, because there's been directors of other programs that knew other people that can get you in, you know, connections.
Yes. It's so important to remember that your immediate connection might not be the connection, like it might not be where you end up, but that connection is connected to other connections, and it's all connected.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
so
in a
important.
book. That's in a very popular book. I can't remember what it's called, but they talk about your five, know another good five, or like a networking opportunity.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. So you found all your preceptors in a week?
I found a rough like 3 out of 7 rotations.
A good amount. Okay. That's still, I mean, a week. That's still a lot to find in a
Right. Then
single
you have to
week.
submit it, and then they have to like approve it because you submit all details. You have to know like the dietitian, their email, like that's a lot to get very personal very quick. You know?
Right.
Like, hey, can we book it 6 months in advance?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it can be.
I was still an undergrad and I was waiting to graduate and then start in August.
Mhm.
That's when all the programs were starting, either August or September.
Uh-huh.
It was COVID. It was the middle of COVID. And I remember like even when I traveled, I have a little booklet, a little composition book. I have like 20 pages filled, the hospital name, the city, the phone number, who I spoke with. I like to handwrite things. Do what works for you. I know a lot of people like online, but I love handwriting. And then I had different highlighters. Yellow, I called them. They said no. Pink, they said they'll call me back. Green, they sent the message to the director. Like, yeah. And I just wrote down people's names, and it was a process. And now I'm looking for my last rotation. And yesterday I called 12 hospitals in California, either booked until 2022 or not accepting more interns. And the big thing last summer was that COVID, they're like, we don't know what's happening.
Right.
We can't have outside people, you know? Now I feel like it's a little bit less strict, but because of the new waves coming, some hospitals are like limiting the amount. They usually have maybe 5 or 6. Now they're only having 2 to 3. So that's my like problem that I'm facing right now. And I've even had my director's assistants help me look to. I'm thinking to see the ones that people in my cohort visited. So I'm going to have to probably move, but finding an Airbnb is not a big problem because every rotation that you do, you know, you can always get a job through it when you're done. So that's why I kind of want my last rotation to be somewhere in a city that I'm ready to move to. I'm ready to go anywhere. I also want to do travel dietetics and help out in other areas, you know. Awesome. But like to kickstart off my professional like dietitian career, I want to do it maybe right after my last internship, you know.
Good. That's awesome. So in your program, I mean, you obviously didn't have every single rotation set up before, since you're still outlining the last one. But yeah, that approach to it is so important, that you're thinking this rotation could be where I end up working, or somewhere in this area is where I could find my, you know, first job or my next connection to the job. And that open-mindedness, I'm just going to say this for everyone watching / listening, that open-mindedness and that like anticipation of flexibility goes so far. Right. And it doesn't mean that that's the same thing for every person, but as you introduce more levels of flexibility into your experience and your expectation, it will open up so many things.
Right. Yeah, like I did a rotation in dialysis, and that was so fun. I remember reading about it in my last semester, and I was like, we're putting this into real life situations. This is so cool. For me, I loved it. I love hands-on. So finally being able to be in person, since the first half of my internship was in online. I was doing my assignments from home pretty much, or tasks that the location needed via email, via FaceTime, via Zoom. So my second half was all in person, and that was way more fun for me. I love talking with people. I love being in the presence of others, and, you know, actually getting to talk with the patients was fun. And knowing another language is really great, especially in your internship. I speak Arabic and Spanish. Arabic is my first language. I didn't have too many, but when I worked at WIC, I had a lot of Arabic speaking. So I got to do my interviews in Arabic. And then when I was doing the DaVita location for dialysis patients, I knew Spanish. So I did assessments in Spanish.
Awesome. Yeah, that can go really far, especially in those community outreach type organizations where that can come up a lot. It just seems to come up there more so than in other settings. So that's awesome. You could bring that to the table. And that will also be like a major boost to your career moving forward, that you've got that skill set.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, for every episode of the podcast, when I chat with someone, I like to share some action item or piece of advice. So anything you would give to other students that they can take today to use on their application, getting ready, going to the next step in their education, or even just getting ready for their career overall. Is there anything you would like to share along those lines?
Yes, I feel like we definitely talked about it. Two things: being prepared and having an open mind, because you might have the idea that you're going here or you're going to be doing this, but when you get there, things change. And I always say things are moving forward, things are moving fast, and things will change. Nothing's really stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
So being open-minded to the change and just prepared to the best that you know that you're going to be ready, that's the best that you can do. Mm-hmm. And with those together, you can create like a positive mindset for anything that comes your way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for just giving us more information about your application experience. I know it will be really helpful for anyone who is watching or listening. Final things: where can people find you on social media if they want to, as we have advised, connect with you and start adding you to their network?
Well, they can add me on Instagram at Ruby's Fit Fam, RUBYSFITFAM, because I also teach fitness classes and talk about my plant-based recipes on there. Great. And then also on LinkedIn, since we talked about that, it's Ruby Sultan, that's my name, and I'm at CSU Long Beach ISPP program. RD to B. Woo! Hey,
so close. You're
so close.
On your way there. That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Ruby. I so appreciate you joining me here on Application Insider. Thanks for sharing everything with our listeners.
Thank you. Bye. Did you go to Fancy?
Did I? We always did. We went to the student internship fair and chatted with people there. So.
And you had a co-leader
with Lacey was.
Yes, Lacey. Yes. Did I meet you too that one day? It was in Chicago.
You probably did. I mean, I was at that Fancy, so we were both there. Lacey's the director there now. She took my place.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I saw so many people there. There's no way I could remember a face, but that's awesome that you remember.
I got introduced to Lacey, and probably you, if you were there at the time, with Lisa, Dr. Lisa Herzik.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I went in my undergrad.
Awesome.
Yeah, Fresno.
That we crossed paths at a Fancy in the past. I love a giant thank you to Ruby and everything that she had to share. This really was a great conversation, and I hope you got out of it the many truth bombs that came out, the value of networking and the connections that you can establish that way, and the connections you can get from those connections to expand your circle even more. The really true impact that an open and positive mindset can play into your application experience, but also into your internship, into your career, into your life, and just the opportunities that can come your way when you are ready and open to receive them. Talking with Ruby was so great, and she really had a lot of great things to share. So I hope you found value in this conversation with her. I hope you are excited to get working on whatever is your next step for your application, taking it a tiny step at a time, keeping your mind open and thinking of the resources that are available there for you, taking advantage of them, reaching out to those who support you in your network, and maybe even taking a leap of faith to expand that network and reach out to someone new to find support from other avenues. I love the advice that Ruby shared about how you can move forward and make progress on your application. So I hope that if that fits in with your approach, that you will consider applying it as well. Thank you again, Ruby, so much. Thank you for watching. And with this Insider Insight, your application is sure to stand out.